receiver. But you can't argue with the fact that he is easily the number 2 guy right now in the passing game in New England. Julian Edelman has taken a huge backseat. I talked about early this season, and again, anyone who's listening can go back on my blog and look this up. I warned about Julian Edelman. I said, this is a guy you cannot trust because he had so many targets last season. He's not going to have the same number of targets this year. He had 151 targets last year. He can't possibly maintain those numbers. There's going to be other guys, but I was talking about Kendall Tompkins. I was talking about Aaron Dobson. I never even thought that Brandon LaFell would be the guy to take all those targets. So, yeah, LaFell's for real. The game should be relatively high-scoring. Denver has a terrific run defense. And if it were in Denver, I would give Denver the clear edge. But with it being in New England, this could be, a low to mid-30s type of game for each team. And that means you've got to start anyone who's going to be getting at least 10 touches or 10 targets in that game.
Another one you've been telling people about, Sanu, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, good matchup there. That should be a big one. A couple of guys, too, looking at the Browns, Tampa Bay, the matchup here, Andrew Hawkins. I think that if you're thin, if there's guys on buys, I think Hawkins, he got his first touchdown, which is good because he's gotten catches and he's gotten yards, but he hadn't gotten in the end zone. He did. But when I was looking up the game, as I mentioned before, not just that stat about the Browns defense, but the other way around, Tampa Bay's defense has traditionally every quarterback they've played here this season, whether they're a good quarterback or a marginal quarterback, they've gotten higher than average numbers. So I think if you're looking for a wide receiver, especially you guys here in Cleveland that like to add a little rooting interest to your game, I think Andrew Hawkins may be a good play for you coming off the bench.
Yeah. I've been surprised by Hawkins. You're right about the TDs. I mean, unless you're in a PPR league and standard, he's been getting mostly about 6 to 9 points a game, which is good. But if you're getting 6 or 7 out of your receiver, you better hope he's a flex because you don't want a number 2 guy getting 6 or 7.
I know.
When he gets a touchdown, that makes a big difference. And obviously, if he's going to be targeted in the red zone or targeted on deep balls where he has a chance to break free and get the big one, that's the kind of guy you want on your team. I would say still, I think there's about 40 receivers out there I'd rather have starting in any given week than Andrew Hawkins. But in a bye week with that matchup, Hawkins becomes a kind of not really a boom bust, but a mediocre boom player. He could be mediocre. He could be lights out. So you could get 6 points. You could get 18 out of a guy like that. But I want to caution again, in a game like that where Cleveland should have the game relatively in hand, I don't see Tampa Bay challenging a great deal. I don't know that they're going to put the ball in Hoyer's arm to win that game, especially with Jordan Cameron looking like he's going to be out. I see it more being a 3-headed monster. Ben Tate, Isaiah Crowell, Terrence West. They're probably going to combine for 35 carries, and that's going to be the name of the game. And Hawkins will be more of a complementary player in the game, in my opinion, than the full-on, we need to rack up points, let's throw it to you 12 times kind of guy.
Sounds good. All right, other positions. You got tight ends, you got defenses, you got kickers. Who do you have on your list that you needed to mention today to either sit or start before we send people on their ways to do what's going to happen this week?
Sure. Well, Cordell Patterson is better than how he's looked. And I've been talking about that for a couple weeks. He was not part of my top 30 receivers entering the season, but I believe he's much better than how he's played, so I want to urge people to give Patterson a shot this week. As far as tight ends, it's slim pickings in some respects. I think that Jermaine Gresham is an interesting desperation play. He hasn't done much for his career given his skill set, given his size. He just hasn't been the kind of player that people expected 5-6 years ago when he came into the league. But he's got a great matchup. And if A.J. Green sits again, Gresham becomes the number 2, number 3 target in that offense. I think you have to seriously consider him. No one can ignore what Heath Miller did last week, over 100 yards. Heath Miller is not going to do that very often. But in this matchup where, I think he has, obviously has great chemistry with Roethlisberger. They've played together for almost a decade. Heath Miller needs to be considered as a top 10 tight end starter this year. For defenses, anyone who has dropped Seattle, I don't think anyone in the leagues has dropped Seattle's defense, but they've been droppable. This is the week you want to play them at home against the Raiders and an error-prone defense, error-prone offense, the Raiders' offense. They have some weapons, but not enough. I think the Seahawks are going to win it handily, and I think that defense is finally going to step up and do what people thought they would do. And the same thing about the Bengals defense. Bengals defense was pretty bad for most of the season. They held Flacco in check last week, but other than that, they look pretty bad. I think they're going to definitely control the Jaguars. And you alluded to the Jets earlier. The Chiefs defense, terrific play. And the Browns are a very, very good play. So you have plenty of defensive options. And finally, kicker, I think here on out, going forward, the last half of the season, I would really target Blair Walsh. I think as Teddy Bridgewater gets more comfortable in that offense, Jerick McKinnon and Matt Asiata at the running back positions, Cordell Patterson, as I mentioned, being more involved in the offense, and a defense that's been better than people thought it would be. People had a bottom feeder defense during the season. They're better than that. I see the Vikings being, that whole team being better than people expect, and I think Blair Walsh is going to benefit with his big leg and plenty of potential field goal opportunities.
BJ Rudell, Fantasy Football for Winners. Every week, it's always a great time. Next week, look forward to catching up with you as teams continue to position for the playoffs or try to recover from really, really bad starts of the season. And I'm looking forward to another week. How are you doing, by the way, in your leagues?
I'm in the one that counts. I'm 4-4. It's tough. I wish I were better, but I got to keep going out there. I'm third in the league in points. I just got to keep leading. I have a team that's good enough for the playoffs based on the production I'm getting from my guys: Jimmy Graham, Antonio Brown, Matt Stafford. You name it. I've got a whole bunch. I picked Ahmad Bradshaw in the 10th round and Mark Ingram in the 13th round. So you can imagine I'm stacked based on where I thought I should be, where I am. I've just lost some close ones. So I'm hoping that I can win the next two and position myself for a great shot at the playoffs.
I've lost some close ones, too. I've lost some not-so-close ones, either. You add them together, I've lost 6 out of 8. Have I mentioned before that I'm having a bad season so far? I just want to relate. I want that portion of the audience to relate to me. I'm not even talking to you fantasy football winners right now. I'm talking to you guys that are hanging where I'm at. I feel your pain. We are in this together. Forget all these elitists with their 500 records and their playoff talk. We're good where we're at. BJ, good stuff, man. Always a great time. Have a great week, and I look forward to doing this again next Thursday.
Fantastic, Jarek. Have a great week.
You too. And don't forget, you guys, Fantasy Football for Winners on Facebook. Look for it. That's BJ. Tweet with them right up until game time. At BJ Rudell. Tweet with us at the Sports Fix CLE. We'll forward them to BJ. Answer your questions as you head up to the game. You hear that in the background? You guys know I love the movie Kingpin, man. I love the Disco Inferno song at the beginning when he's just the shizzle dizzle and he's walking through the bowling alley and he's taking people's pieces of pizza and drinks out of their hands, and he's the cock of the walk, baby, like Bruce Dickinson, and that's gonna be LeBron coming into the queue tonight. I think they're gonna queue up a little Disco Inferno. He's gonna walk in, he's gonna take Dan Gilbert's pizza off his plate, he's gonna grab the drink out of David Blatt's hand, he's gonna make himself comfy at the queue. Cavaliers kicking it off, having some fun. They're having fun, we're having fun. Eddy Jansen, more than a fan, Cleveland beat writer for the Cavs, joins us next. We'll talk about it. Get you set. Final segment of the day. We're going to run it up till tip-off, baby. Get you ready for the Cavaliers as they begin the odyssey that's going to be whatever this season turns into. Let's do it. Talking Cavs, wrapping it up. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, live right here on the Sports Fix.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
Throwing you the best sports commentary in town. The Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Looking to upgrade your league trophy? Check out fantasyjocks.com for championship belts, rings, trophies, and more. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize. I mean, a really real prize. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
Let's talk about the X's and O's of family entertainment. Every parent in Ohio knows the importance of being able to draw up an activity that'll get you out of the house for a couple of hours. But it needs to be affordable. It needs to be family-friendly. Above all, it needs to be fun. Now, let's talk about high school sports. Bang for your buck, school sports provide the perfect game plan for your family. You'll enjoy all of the drama and excitement competitive sports offer. You'll be supporting the future leaders of our community in a meaningful way. Best of all, you can take the entire family without breaking the bank. Heck, you won't even dent it. Now, enough chalk talk. Let's get out there and see what's playing at the high school in your community. School sports. Good for our kids, good for our community. This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
This is Josh Tomlin of the Cleveland Indians, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Just kick a little something for them cars that be bumping.
Yeah, but we need a beat that they can front to. Oh, that'll work. Be funky. You know what I'm saying? Cars ride with the booming system. Cars ride with the booming system. Funky. All the cars out there and all the brothers. I like the front they ride.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live, wrapping things up. Final segment across the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rock back with you here and getting ready to be joined on the phone lines by Eddy Jansen, More Than a Fan Cleveland. We'll talk some Cavaliers here as we wrap things up, and then the Cavs tip things off tonight. I mean, I get the excitement. I get people being all fired up. I think it's a great day for the city of Cleveland. But, I mean, I got to tell you, you know what? I was actually surprised that the Plain Dealer didn't have one of them little nifty pullouts that they like to have, because they find a reason to put those in there for every other sports team season. And I was just shocked, because you would have thought they could have sold a truckload of advertising for the pull-out parts of that thing like they usually do. I was a little bit surprised by that one, but you know, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. I mean, I'm with it. It's also the first of 82 glorified pep rallies, man. That's all the regular season is for the top teams in the NBA. It's a fun thing if you're a fan, but at the same time, I would much rather push the fast forward button and get to the stuff that really matters. But you do get to enjoy a party first. That's tonight, and going to be a lot of fun down at the Cube. But I mean, it really is. I'm sorry. I will argue with anybody to that. I'm not talking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those teams are grinding. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those teams are working 82 games deep, because they have to lock in position and lock in the playoff spot in general. But the top couple of I'm just saying, Miami, Chicago last year, they didn't go into the season going, well, if we make the playoffs, come on. Foregone conclusion, man. It's just a matter of who finishes first, who finishes second, and even then, ask Indiana how much that, mattered. We're talked so much about the importance of home court advantage till you get your heart snatched out of your chest, and then it doesn't matter where you're playing the games. All right, guys, phone lines not open. You know what? I'll open them. You know what? I don't really have an opportunity to open the phones back up here. No, I'm absolutely not. It's the opposite. Charles. There's a difference. Listen, brother, if you think that the starting five of this Cavaliers team could not play, and I'm pretty sure that they'll still win 35 to 40 games with just the second five. I'm just saying, which is basically your starting five from last year. Just switched up a little bit. I'm just saying. No, it is what it is. It's the nature of the beast in the NBA. There's not enough good teams on the Cavaliers' schedule for them not to win.